Hello and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profit Show. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. My name is Jim Landers, and my mission is simple. I help portrait photographers just like you make an incredible income doing what they love. Each week on the Portrait Profit Show, you get tips and systems on the business side of photography designed to help you gain a mastery over marketing and sales so you can finally get what you deserve. You are in the right place. Welcome to the Portrait Profit Show. The Portrait Profit Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. Digital Pro Lab is digitalprolab.com. This is a lab that is filled with people who are career people. They know what they are doing. They do it day in, day out, and they make you look like a hero. That's why I like Digital Pro Lab. Go to digitalprolab.com to get more information about them and find out about Amanda and her fabulous team. And of course, Landers Photography School, where I teach the business side of photography. I teach the photography side as well, and I've been teaching it since 1997, but I have geared most of my time recently, the past several years, to the business side and uplifting those who actually want to make a living. And so give me a call, give me an email, jim@landersphotoschool.com, jim@landersphotoschool.com. All right, so you hopefully have been here before, but if you haven't, you may not know. We encourage you to interact, ask questions, and you know what? Hit that like button, hit that love button while you're here. And before you leave a comment, and we definitely want you to do so, if you want us to know who it is that's leaving the comment, you can see going across the screen right now. We use a program called StreamYard, and this allows us to be able to simulcast to 8 different places at the same time. And because of that, I can't monitor all 8 of them. So therefore, it brings those comments to one place if you register yourself. Otherwise, I won't know that you did it. I may see Facebook user because it will show me that, but I won't know who did it. So if you don't want to remain anonymous, and if you do, well, that's fine too. We'll go to streamyard.com/Facebook, and then just click that, and it will now allow me to know that you're here. All right. What I do want you to do right now, no matter what, is enter in hashtag live in the comments section. Just go to the comments section right now, enter in hashtag live. That tells me that you're watching us live right now, either on Facebook or on LinkedIn or on YouTube. And for those who are watching the replay, please comment replay, hashtag replay. As always, for our monthly panel, we have a wonderful group of panelists who have valuable insights to share with us. Each of our panelists has different perspectives, and they're here because they believe in uplifting the photographer community, and they want to inspire and motivate you. So get ready to be inspired and help me welcome the panelists by clicking like or love as I bring them on the screen right now. So we've got Debbie, and we've got Joseph, and we've got Daniel. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Hi.
Hello.
Good.
I'm so glad you guys are here right now. So those of you who have watched the Portrait Profits discussion panels before, you probably know exactly what's going on. But if this is your first time, the panelists are going to be able to give their opinions on the different questions that we're bringing to them. And I'm going to give each one of them the same exact question so you can hear it, a response from 3 different points of view. And so I want to thank you guys for being here this evening. I know that you've got other things going on, that you're sacrificing something so that you can be here to uplift the photography community. So thank you guys for doing that for us today.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm going to take off Joseph and Daniel for now and then leave Debbie on right now so that Debbie can tell us a little bit about herself. Hey, Debbie.
Hi. Well, I'm Debbie, and I am the owner and photographer of Hills Creative Co. here in the Texas Hill Country. And I'm a lifestyle and wedding photographer. I started in 2004, fresh out of high school, moved down to San Antonio and got a job at Picture People, ironically in North Star Mall, because the qualifications were that you had to be good with kids. And so I started working there and started to learn photography and studio lighting and just fell in love with it. And just kind of evolved from there. And here we are now. I'm originally from South Louisiana, so spent some time there before coming back to Texas in about 2016 with my family, and just relaunching myself here in the Texas Hill Country. So I love my clients. I love spending time with them and getting to capture some beautiful moments and weddings. And a lot of my clients are lifelong clients, so I'm watching them get married and then have babies and watching those babies grow up. But a huge part of my heart is for the future generation of photographers. And when I started, there was a lot of photographers that kind of slammed the door in my face. And I want to have a different outcome for photographers. I want to be a safe space where they can come and ask questions and feel like they have an ally and a support system, and just somebody that they can go to when they need to talk or have questions.
That sounds awesome. So you've lived here how long? This area?
In this area now, in this season, I've been here for about 6 years now.
Nice.
But I kind of spent 5 years earlier in 2000 here as well. So.
And you have a fan named Albert.
That is my husband. He's my biggest fan and my biggest support system. So yeah, I love him.
I saw his comment. I'm not gonna say anything because I'm sure it's just meant for you. But good job, Albert. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna bring on Joseph now. Hey, Joseph, how's it going this evening?
Good.
Can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Well, I'm a corporate photographer, and I've been around since 1987. And officially, I started when I was 10 as designated the family photographer. I went to college, and I had a different route I wanted to go. And I decided that photography was going to be my passion. And I specialize in architectural. I do a lot of resort photography, and I do a lot of corporate conferences and conventions. I do a lot of trade show photography. I've incorporated video into the mix with a good team I have, and I've been doing this pretty strong all these years, and I really like what I do. And I guess that's it in a nutshell. But I will say I fell into conference photography accidentally by doing architectural work for a resort property, and somebody said there's a huge meeting, and I had no idea what that was, and she took me under her wing, and in a way, she was my mentor, even though she wasn't a photographer. But I listened, and I found my path, and the rest is history. That's all I can say for me right now.
That's fantastic. I mean, you guys notice that Joseph is not the portrait photographer that the majority of you guys probably are. We get all different types, of course, watching the show, but the majority of us are portrait photographers. And I like bringing on different perspectives. You've seen this happen before, but as Joseph and I were talking on off camera just before this started, it doesn't really matter what type of photography you do when it comes to this particular subject. Being a mentor can come from lots of different places, and you just mentioned one that wasn't even a photographer. So I'm glad that you had that experience, and I'm hoping that we'll get to hear some more about things like that.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Joseph. I appreciate you. All right, let's take Joseph off and bring on Daniel. Daniel, how's it going this evening?
Well, it'll be going a little better if my camera was working today, but I'm doing great.
Well, we like the photograph that you have of yourself. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Sorry, you're that's not working. I know that how frustrating that can be, but I also know that Daniel Grove can handle any situation, and he's probably had to deal with every situation, so he can pressure through this, just
right.
push right on through this without any problem. We won't even notice, other than we'll miss that in-person smile.
Thank you.
Well, Daniel, tell us about you and what you do.
Well, I guess you could call me a photography generalist. I do a little bit of everything, and I like that. I like the variety, I like the challenge, and I like that. And the next shoot is never going to be anything like my last week of shoots. So I like variety, and I do a little bit of everything. I'm primarily most well known for my creative work in cosplay, composites, and themed photo shoots. That's what I enjoy the most of. And that's kind of made a name for myself for that in this area, and I enjoy that. I've also been dabbling in courses. So I just released my first two courses in December. It's Intro to Photoshop and Intro to Lightroom Classic. I have a passion for teaching and sharing what I've learned the hard way over years of blood, sweat, and tears, sharing it, making it easy for people to digest and get to that next level in a way that, may take them a month. It took me 5 years. I like that. I feel good when I can help someone not do what I did, because I did so many things wrong. Um, yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I love being creative. I'm a huge geek, and I also love helping people.
I agree. Knowing what I know about you, I totally agree.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure glad that you're here with us this evening, Daniel, and I look forward to
Thank you.
the insights that you're just about to share. In fact, here comes the first question. It's yours, and I'll be asking the same one of the other two, but starting with you, how do you define mentorship, and what does being a mentor mean to you personally?
Sorry about that. Had a little baby interrupt me. Um, one of the many babies in my house right now. She sees all my pretty lights. What are you doing, Daddy? So, how do I
Ah,
define mentorship? I define it. Sorry. Can you hear that in the background? It's lovely. I define mentorship as being a steady rock for those who are in the chaos of learning. The waves are just crashing them left and right. They're getting different opinions on different YouTube videos. They're confused about the terminology and what the next step is to go in the right direction. And then there's the mentor. They can always go to the mentor and lash their boat to the mentor for a minute and get centered and figure out what's what. Kind of clarify things for themselves and for their next step. So that's what being a mentor is for me. Someone who can always be there for them. That's steady and has been there already and has conquered that mountain, and can offer different routes so that they can conquer it themselves. Personally, it's just kind of paying it forward. I was helped a few times, not a lot, honestly. I didn't have a lot of mentors or resources, but the few little gleaming specks of light in the darkness that I did have, I will never forget those. And so I try to be that and pay it forward to the next person.
it makes a lot of sense. And there's I'm often curious about that, and because there are those who says that no one's willing to help them, and others
Mhm.
who say that they were never able to find anybody. And
Yeah.
so maybe I'll ask that question a little bit later on, if what to do in that situation, because when someone feels something is real, it is real. But I know for sure there's a ton of people who have a mindset of being helpful. Is it a matter of just being able to find them, or being able to how to connect? So there's some variables in there. Their reality is their reality. They are experiencing that feeling, but is there something that they can do to no longer experience that feeling? So, but thank you for all that you're doing and have done as a mentor. I hear good things about what you do all the time,
Thank you.
Daniel. Yeah, yeah. So, all right, good answer. I'm going to ask that same question now. Of let's see, let's ask Debbie that same question. So, Debbie, what are your thoughts? How do you define mentorship, and what does it mean to you personally?
I think that mentorship and all that it entails is really like a guide. I kind of think about like when you go hiking or something, that person that's maybe a couple steps ahead of you, that like is holding that flashlight ahead, that's got the water, has got carrying all the supplies that can help you, but you're still walking on that path on your own. So there's elements to it that you're coming alongside them, encouraging them to pick up the pace a little maybe. And then there's just that guiding type of like role for me, as I feel like as a mentor. It's that support system. I know so many people who are couples, or they have spouses that they just don't understand the photography industry. And so having a mentor that they can go to and just even have just a conversation and voice their frustrations, or just ask questions, is a great place for them to have that support system. So really a guide and a support system, and someone who's just going to challenge them to grow as an individual without just like handing them all the tools in one spot.
That is interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Very good description. Thank you, Debbie. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. I'm going to ask that same question now, Joseph. So, Joseph, what are your thoughts on mentorship? How do you define it, and what does it mean to you personally?
Well, I thought about that a lot, and I think a mentor is someone who can guide and support you on your journey toward becoming the photographer you want to be. As a mentor, I advocate for their goals and provide valuable insights from my experiences, both positive and negative. And it could be anywhere from the moment a client turns you down and how do you handle it, to the client who doesn't pay on time, as an example. And it's helped shape me as a photographer who I am today. If some of what I can share can help that person succeed, I feel I've given back to the person who really wants to go to the next level, and hopefully they can help with them. A lot of times a mentor for me is someone who comes up to me and says, how can I be where you're at? And from that perspective, I do my own assessment. Is that somebody who really wants this? And if they do, we'll talk it to the next level. But I think it's somebody who gives them that inspiration to keep moving on, especially when they have their moments where they don't think they're getting anywhere. That's my take on it.
I like how each one of you has a slightly different take. I think all of you would agree with what each other said, but you definitely have a slight bit of way of looking at it. And so, yay, that's exactly what I want to hear. So thank you for sharing that. The next question, number 2, what motivated you to become a mentor, and how did you take your first steps to being in that role? Tell me about your feelings about it, and part about me is part of that question is of me, because when I first started being a mentor, I kind of resisted it because I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel like it was my role. I felt like I'm looking up at people who are mentors. Why would somebody want me as that? You need to look at those guys. So, did you come across any feelings like that?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I started my photography journey myself in '87. So, when manual cameras were around and being new to the field, I taught myself how to shoot, but I wanted to learn more. So I took a look, and I've decided to find photographers to assist in their shoots. Since computers didn't exist, I just used a phone book, found photographers in the industry. I wanted to be a part of, though, through determination and grit, I found some photographers who allowed me to work. I listened, I watched, and I learned. They were not my mentors per se, but they were great teachers. I went the next step because I really wanted to be something different than just a photographer trying to make $1 here or there. So to enhance my skill, I got involved with a great company called Santa Fe Workshops up in New Mexico. And it was expensive, but if you really want to move to the next level, you got to pay your dividends. So I did, and I learned a lot. And there I met photographers who were much more advanced than I could ever hope for. And, it's through them I discovered the value of having a mentor, because that's where they actually had a class on a mentor and what a mentee does. And these photographers gave back generously. And from that experience, I said, if I ever get to the level of them, I'm going to give that back. And that's what I've been doing to this day to people I feel that really, really want it, and not just kind of going through the motions. That's it.
Makes sense. Yeah. Was that the Santa Fe Workshops? Was that one of the first educational things you did, or the first big educational step you made?
One of the first, because, in Santa Fe, their workshops are immersive 7 days, 8 hours a day. you are mixed in with photographers,
That's a lot.
with pure professionals, and you have to show your work before you even consider for some of those. But the beauty of it is you're under the guise of guys who in the industry, are some of the best in the world. And the people who show up are along that same line. And here I am, this young guy who didn't really know a whole lot, who put their arm around me, and they weren't worried about me competing in their territory. So they were giving me so much advice. And to this day, I've become really strong friends with a lot of them. Some are retired, but I shot for the stars, and I think it's made a huge difference where I am today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right, let's ask that same question now of Daniel. So bring Daniel on.
Hey.
Daniel, what you mentioned it in the question before, but let's talk about it again. What motivated you to become a mentor, and how did you take your first steps to feel like you were qualified to be in that role?
Well, what motivated me to start mentoring, was kind of my love of teaching. Honestly, I enjoy teaching and helping people. It's just part of who I am. And I've always found ways to do that. And then when my photography business was growing and my knowledge base was growing, and I was gaining a reputation in the local area, it kind of clicked. I was like, hey, like, people need help, a lot of help. I see people on the Facebook groups, they're very confused and they don't know what to do. And I mean, it makes sense. This is a very technical as well as a business oriented industry. There's a lot to it to becoming a successful photographer. And I was like, why don't I help them? I don't have much mastery now, but there are some things I'm really good at, like photoshopping and creative stuff and special effects. And that's something that people need help with occasionally. So I just saw a need, I guess, in a local online community. And so I dove in. I was like, hey, does anyone want to come with me to shoots and just learn through observing, get some hands-on experience? And that was a lot of fun. People really appreciated being able to do that. And they did benefit a lot from those experiences. And then I started offering one-on-one editing courses. Like, hey, let me teach you Lightroom. Like, you have it, you don't know how to use it. Let's fix that because you're paying for it. And it's an amazing program. So again, I saw a need and I filled it, and I enjoyed doing that. So yeah, I think that's kind of what started it for me. But also psychologically, like, I didn't really have any mentors. YouTube was barely a resource when I started in high school. And there just wasn't a lot to help us as there is now. There's tons of resources now if you have time and you know where to look. But when I started it wasn't the case. And so I learned a lot. It took me a long time. I calculated at one point, it took me 8 years to get to where my portraits were like decent and professional and sellable. That's just what I felt personally. And that's way too long. I could have learned that stuff in 1 year if I had someone who knew what was what. So trying to prevent that from others.
That's a good point. I think a lot of us would agree that it's our personal experiences that motivated us to do this kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can relate.
Mhm.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. Now let's ask that same question of Debbie. So let's bring Debbie on. So Debbie, what motivated you to become a mentor, and how did you take your first steps to find yourself in this role?
So it's kind of similar to the other two in a way that it was really how somebody kind of took me under their wing and began to mentor me in photography when I first started. Um, and when I was here in San Antonio and starting to learn and be mentored, it was totally different community, and the resources and the people that were willing to talk to me was so different than when I went back to my small town in South Louisiana for a season. It was different, and people viewed me as a competition. And why would I want to help you? Or I didn't have help, so I'm not going to help you. And that was really something that kind of hurt. And I've always been a person who's wanted to see and have a community. I think that not everybody's going to like my photography style. And if I am not maybe a light and airy photographer and someone's looking for that, then I want to have a resource of photographers that I can uplift and promote and make sure that clients are connecting with the right photographer, not necessarily to make a quick buck. So I'm doing what I love and they're doing what they love. And so because of that, I really felt like there was a lack of community. And I did find one who would like kind of pour into me and talk to me, and it was so encouraging. And so when I moved back to Texas, I started having people ask me. I was doing event photography, and they would ask me like, "Hey, I have a camera on my shelf in my closet that's collecting dust." I feel like that's the first statement everyone always says. How can you teach me how to use this? And that's just kind of how the first steps happen. It's just like one or two people at first, and then it evolved into having these like day-long classes, and being able to do hands-on experience. And that's kind of really because I was mentored and somebody took me under their wing, and they were kind enough to show me and teach me things that I couldn't find elsewhere. That's really what birthed in my heart to kind of pay it forward and do the same for the next generation.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's uh, it's an interesting experience, though. Um, that you found that some um, didn't really have an interest in helping, um, and I'm sure there's lots of reasons why you experienced that, why they may have ignored or declined. And what do you think those might be? I mean, I'm thinking, there's when I first started, my initial thought was I'm not good enough to be a mentor. When someone asked me for help, I would answer their question and help them out. But if they wanted anything more than that, I didn't feel like I was good enough. And it was in 1997. Uh, I photographed my first paid job in 1983. And I got my degree in photography in 1991. And you'd think that by 1997, I probably should feel like I'm good enough to be a mentor, but that's not me. I didn't feel like that. I never did. Even at the point in time when I became a mentor, I did not feel like I fit the role. I always would refer that to somebody else. There's these people that I'm looking at. You need to talk to them. But this wonderful woman named Chris effectively slapped me in the face. She didn't slap me. She slapped some sense into me. She said, "You mean to tell me that a guy who has a degree in photography and who has been in business as his sole source of income for the last 6 years has nothing that he can share with me?" And all of a sudden I had an epiphany, and oh my gosh, I do know stuff. It's not about what I
Hmm.
don't know yet.
Yeah.
It's about what I already know and can share. And so it wasn't a matter of me not being unwilling to share. And I wonder if some of the people you reached out to were just like me, and they just thought someone else was better and they didn't feel up to the role.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think
I wonder
that's,
if some
yeah.
people don't find what they're looking for because that individual doesn't feel good enough to share.
I think that's a big portion of it for a lot of people. I mean, there's sometimes when people approach me and ask me, and I don't feel confident enough. And my husband has to give me that, um, you know, verbal slap in the face, pretty much. And I think too that a lot of times the community that you're in, and the culture within your community, not just in the photography but community, but like in your just social community. I've talked to a lot of photographers from really small towns, and in small towns, if the market is oversaturated, then there's more photographers who'll be closed off to help. And I think it just depends. I think in big communities, we all view this thing as like, there's more people here than I could ever photograph. And then I think in small towns, it's immediate. That's my competition. If they come in and if I teach them what I know, then they're going to start stealing my clients, and there's not enough people for it, which that's not necessarily true. So I do think that there's part of the lack of knowledge or the lack of confidence. And then I think sometimes it is, hey, the surrounding that you're in, and it just that plays a factor as well.
I love all the different variables. I mean, it's true. We get to where sometimes we have our blinders on, but when we have
Yeah,
these discussions, we can open our eyes to different things. And so I'm glad you brought those up. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I appreciate it. All right, so you get the next question, Debbie.
Oh, goodness.
You ready
Okay.
for this?
Yes.
I want you to, or maybe can you describe your approach to mentoring and how it's evolved since you started mentoring.
So kind of piggybacks off that last question of I have always struggled with learning. I really struggled in high school and just throughout school. I was like in school when they didn't really test for like dyslexia and learning disabilities. And so I was never fully diagnosed, but I can't like numbers and things just fall out my head. I say all the time. But the creative side of my brain is always has always been going. My mother is a watercolor artist. She actually like painted that. Oh, it's on the side, the thing behind me. So I grew up in a very creative home, and I grew up in a very hands-on, creative world. And so I take that approach when doing mentoring because I feel like a lot of times I get people who ask me for very hands-on training experiences, kind of like, hey, I don't want to just talk about how do I deal with a family with crazy kids and how do I pose them. It's more of like, can I follow you? Can I come to one of your sessions and get that experience in that moment? See how you interact with clients. See how you talk to them and coach them through posing and different things like that. And so in the beginning, I really thought that I needed to like have all these like workbooks and think that I needed like this whole program kind of worked out. And I realized that a lot of people just really wanted to have a face-to-face conversation. They wanted to ask questions, and they really just wanted that hands-on experience. And sometimes creating an environment for them to kind of go like, okay, like we're gonna set up a model here, and this is what the lighting is like today. Here's your camera. Like I'm here as your support, but let's see what you've learned and let's see you go into action and see your perspective and see how you've learned and developed over our conversation. So that's kind of how it's evolved. Kind of went from more of a like, I have to have this like by the book mentoring program to like more hands on, very personable to each mentee type thing.
I like that. I had a similar evolution, so I get that. Thank you for sharing
Awesome.
that. I
You're
wouldn't even
welcome.
think about it that way. Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks, Debbie. I appreciate that.
You're
All right,
welcome.
I'm gonna ask that same question now of Joseph. So, Joseph, what are your thoughts here? Can you describe your approach to mentoring and how it's evolved since the first time you experienced being a mentor?
I thought a lot about it, and I feel like through the years, for the first 10 or 15 years, I really wasn't a mentor, except when people ask questions, I'd give them some advice. As I started growing and I started getting more opportunities, and then especially when I started traveling a lot, um, and I would hire photographers to help me and assistants, the questions started coming up. And that kind of opened up that light bulb, so to speak. Sometimes they'd ask me, how did I get hired in their city? And how can I do what you do? And they led the conversation. And then I finally said about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe I should help someone because it can also help me. If I can mentor them in a way that is in my space, this is somebody who's going to be an asset to me in that city or that country. And I can usually tell if they're passionate about photography or they're just there for the moment. And I'm very specific in who I will even consider that. I'm not going to hire somebody that's not in my space because it doesn't do me any good. If they got questions, that's fine, but I'm not going to spend all my time for somebody who's not in my space because I want the ROI. I'm just going to be very frank. It's hard to find good photographers. And as much as I shoot, I get so overwhelmed. I need those people. So I'm pretty selective when it comes to mentorship. I have about 2 right now. And if someone is a good fit, I take my time. I just want to make sure they're committed and not just for the money. And I'm too busy to give them shortcuts. And I'm also cautious about selecting them. And that's pretty much my approach to it. And it seems to have done a really good job of weeding out those that say one thing and do another. And that's my take on it.
Man, it's fun to hear different points of view. I really appreciate you throwing that in there, because there are things that you can do to help others that have the side effect of helping you out, or there may be things that you're going to be doing for your business anyway that have the side effect of helping someone else out, and that's I think what the message you're trying to get across is, you can have people come in to the business that. To help grow your business, it helps them out at the same time. They're learning from you. You're probably learning something from them, uh,
Always.
and it it reminds me while I was active. So I still do photography jobs here and there, but I don't market, and so the only thing I do is people I've worked with in the past, and I'm not trying to grow it. I'm trying. I do the teaching, just teaching, but when I had my business going full steam ahead, I had um, starting, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years ago, I started a program, and it expanded into 3 different parts. It was an intern program, an apprentice program, and a shadow program, and it was dependent on how much time they had to dedicate to it. The intern program would be, they'd have a few hours every week to be able to dedicate to it. Apprentice program would mean that was their full-time thing. In other words, instead of going to college, really, they would be doing photography. They would be at my business every single day, and I did not pay those people in those positions. Those were there for growth purposes. I didn't charge them. They didn't charge me. It was it was a win-win situation. I was giving them a free education, and it was something that I did when I was getting started. One of the first things I did was just go visit other photographers. You mentioned doing that, but I visited other photographers. I spent time with other photographers. I spent a month with one, and I didn't get paid anything, nor did I want to get paid anything. I was there for the education. I valued the time being around someone who knew what they were going to do. I didn't think I'm so great I need to get paid for knowing nothing about the subject. That's just silly. So I went there and I got lucky that he didn't charge me, is how I looked at it, because I gained a lot out of the time I spent there. How do you feel about that? You think I'm crazy?
Oh no, not at all. In fact, that's one of the biggest issues that I come across, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. You have these young photographers who go to Best Buy and they pick up a camera, throw in a program, and say, "I'm ready to shoot, and I want to get paid exactly what you got paid." And it's really challenging. And I tell them exactly the same thing as you, which if you want to shadow me, I don't want your work. I don't. I just want to see what you do, and I'm going to give you advice, and I'll be very point blank if you're ready for this or not. Well, how much are you going to pay me? I go, that is the most asinine response I'm
Yeah,
ever to get. And
yeah.
I was in Toronto doing a photo assignment. I hired someone, and she worked out half of what I hoped for. I asked her, come in 30, 40 minutes early so we can talk. We never met. We want to go through everything. Are you going to pay me for that? That's what she asked me. I go, what? That
What?
doesn't work that way. I said, when you go to work, do they pay to get there early? Today's 20, even 25-year-olds, they think that everything is entitled to them. And I came in early, and I even had some tell me, I was in England, and somebody tells me, I think I did a good job. Could you tip me a little for what I did? I go, no, that's not how it works. So I have challenges in these different mindsets from the different places. What you're saying earlier is exactly what I tell people on point. If you want to learn, first I'll ask, do you want to do what I want to do? Or is that just something you want to do? Well, I just want to kind of learn. Well, you're not the right fit. I'm not wasting my time with you. I want somebody who's all in it. I can call on. If this is only something you're going to experiment, I'm not wasting my time. I'm just not doing it. I'll have photographers who'll tell me, hey, I'm a wedding photographer. I can do that. No, you can't. I can't shoot a wedding. I guarantee you, if I shot that wedding, it'll look like a corporate wedding. It'll look beautifully shot, like as it go to, an annual report. I don't know how to pose a wedding. I don't know how to do that. Come to my world, you don't know how to capture what I capture. But they think that because they have a camera, they can do it. So there's challenges, in the different spaces. Everything you said, you're on point. So we agree.
Good. Thanks for bringing up that extra example too. The examples, I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, so let's ask the same question now of Daniel. So bring Daniel on and ask Daniel, can you describe your approach to mentoring and how it's evolved over time?
Well, I actually learned a lot from you. You took me under your wing in 2018, and I learned a lot from your, even just the words you used and the mindsets that you presented that blew my mind. And so I learned a lot from that. And one of the things I learned is I'll start with my very early talks with someone who wants to be mentored. I'll say, "What are your goals?" That's a gym thing, right? Let's
Love
look
it.
at the biggest aerial view. Where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? Why are you doing this? And so once I get a feel for what their goals are, then I'll start getting a picture of how serious they are. Are they experimenting with it? Like Joseph said, it's just a
Yeah.
little trial thing they're going to try and do from home and make quick money. Or are they in it for the long haul? And do they have a realistic expectation of things? Some people just don't have a grip on reality. They really don't when it comes to careers, this career. And so, yeah, I start to kind of build up this profile in my head of like, how serious are they? How do they imagine this going? And then I'll go from there, and I'll suggest certain remedies. Like a doctor looks at the symptoms and prescribes things. I prescribe different learning opportunities for them that I have to offer. Whether it's them being a grunt, doing some labor, some hands-on work, moving my equipment around, and really not saying anything during the whole shoot, but just learning through observing. That is the most safe for them and less responsibility I can find for an opportunity to learn. And there's a lot of other levels above that. There's of course all the way up to the one-on-one lessons, and like I'm doing a shoot with them. I show them how I edit it. I talk about all the business choices behind the scenes that I did, so they can see how the whole process works. So there's just a whole gradient of opportunities, and I try to judge where they are in their journey, because everyone's in different places and everyone has different
Yeah.
abilities as well. So it's hard, and I'm really balancing a lot of things when someone comes up to you and says, "Teach me to be like you," or "Teach me to be successful." You gotta know them a bit first. So I try to get to know them. But over time, how it's evolved, I mean, honestly, not much. I'm kind of still doing the same thing, and normally that's a bad thing, but I don't think it is in my case. I think I'm doing all right, and the people that I mentor regularly, I know they're always coming back with praise and like thanks, and hey, I use that thing you taught me, or thing you taught me 5 years ago. I used it again, and my photos are looking great, whatever. So I'm getting some good feedback from them, so that encourages me.
Nice. Yeah. Well, first, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. And yeah, it totally makes sense. Knowing where someone is going it makes a difference. Knowing that you're the right tool to help them with what they're trying to accomplish. It'd be like saying, and I use this analogy all the time, so you've heard it a million times, I'm sure. But if if someone goes into a tool store, they're not going to ask what's the best tool, because that's a dumb question. However, people will ask that about photography. What's the best camera? What's the best lens? What's the best this? What's the best that? That doesn't exist. That's not how things work.
Yeah.
You choose the tool that's the right one for the job. It'd be like if someone asked me a question about what to do in order, if they wanted to, and it may be a general goal, but let's say that the answer could be anything. So let's say a road trip, and you ask friends about, so what's the best route to take? I'm going to take a road trip. What's the best route to take?
Mhm.
Would you not have to ask, and I know you know the answer to this question, would you not have to ask, well, where are you going?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet photographers somehow skip that part. We creatives are wonderful, yet we skip past some of the most basic stuff that we should not be skipping past. And so if someone wants to know what's the best lens, I want to know what it is they want to do with that lens. If
Mhm.
someone's going on a road trip, I want to know where they're going on the road trip, because I can suggest a lot of tools. I can suggest a lot of roads. There's a lot of good we live, this show is coming out of San Antonio. I know some of you are watching from all over the place, but we're in San Antonio, Texas. And in San Antonio, Texas, there's a whole bunch of highways coming in and out of it. I'm going to pick on one, I-10. All right. So if I say take I-10, it's a good road. What if my goal was to get to Austin? Then I gave them good advice, because I-10 is a good road, but it's not the right advice. The only way to know the difference between something good and something that's right is by knowing what you're heading towards, what the end result is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I know you and I are on the same page on that one, so that's why I brought it up.
It's good.
Well, Daniel, I appreciate your answer to that question. I'm going to ask you the next one.
All right.
How has being a mentor, maybe the things you've learned or experienced, how's being a mentor impacted you or impacted your own photography career and your own personal growth?
Yeah. So as far as career growth, we're talking making money off of things and reaching new audiences. The people that I mentor, they know where I'm at professionally, and they obviously know where they're at, which is not a professional yet. And so those people are not only fans, but they've become big supporters of my business. And I've actually gotten jobs through a number of them, because hopefully I can instill that grasp on reality, where they say, hey, I got this huge job coming. I could get this huge job at work, or I could send it to Daniel, who would actually know what he's doing. And so I've actually gotten various jobs that way. I have, of course, made money off of teaching people stuff that I love to teach. And so that's been really great for me, is finding ways to make money from your time or your talent. And that my talent is obviously photography and technical know-how. So it's been really rewarding being able to use that to grow my career. But personal growth, I've made a lot of friends through helping people. And this network that I've grown, just photographer friends here in San Antonio, is incredible. We shoot under each other. I second shoot for people. They second shoot for me, back and forth. We get each other jobs that we never had before. I also do video. I branched into video a few years ago. And so that's been really fun, being able to do jobs that I would never have had before. But I have them, not just because I know how to do video, but because I know people that are out there and have jobs, weddings that I never knew about, would never have met that bride. And so they're bringing me into that job. So I've grown a lot in a lot of ways, personally and professionally, made a lot of great friends, and built up a pretty good network. I feel perhaps like what Debbie said, that San Antonio, because it's a large area, there's a lot more camaraderie and friendship between photographers. I've heard it's not the same in other cities, which is really sad and unfortunate. I've never experienced that myself, but I'm grateful for what we have. And yeah, mentoring it's been great. It's been great for me.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that, Daniel. I appreciate it. All right. Now let's ask that same question of Debbie. So, Debbie, tell me your thoughts. Has being a mentor impacted your own photography career and your own personal growth outside of photography?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of what he said is so true. For sure, the friendships that have come, a lot of these people that I've mentored, or people that I've kind of had in my circle and have asked me questions, have become some of my really good friends. Some of them have like graduated and they're doing great, and now we're all like at the same level. And I think
Nice.
that there's those types of things that, as a wedding photographer, sometimes I'm traveling, and it's really great to have mentored somebody, excuse me, who knows, they've kind of experienced like how I like to shoot, what I'm looking for, what type of angles and perspectives I'm looking for. And so then when they're second shooting for me or traveling or whatever, it's great to kind of have them there. So it's helped my business to have associate shooters. If I'm booked for a wedding, but a client still wants my editing style, I can kind of call up one of them, and they're able to shoot that wedding for me, and I'll still do all the editing. Same thing, I have photographer friends who are in the video aspect. I don't do video right now, but I have a great friend who's a photographer who also does video, and so anytime a client asks me, I'm gonna let them know about him because I know that the relationship there is good there, and it benefits. We all know that, like, especially if you're in the wedding world, if you work with a videographer, you have to be really close to each other. So it's better to kind of like have that person that you have a good relationship with than like a complete stranger. So it's definitely helped me in my business in that aspect. And then just the growth of like someone who's going like, hey, your editing style's kind of been a little inconsistent, like, or just kind of holding me accountable to things as well, and has really helped me grow and pushed me to do new things, or just feeling like I need to keep up and like, hey, like, let's just challenge each other. It's been really good, and that's really kind of what mentoring has helped me and grown my own business in.
I agree with that. I like that. Thank you for sharing that, Debbie. All right, I'm going to take you off and I'm going to ask that same question now of Joseph. And before I do, I want to ask you guys, in fact, I'll put this up on the screen. Is this resonating with you today? Are you hearing this? Are there some things in here that you're getting? Are there some new things that you haven't heard before, but they make sense? Um, if this is resonating with you today, do me a favor, just go over to the comments and write the word yes. Just yes. I want to know if this is touching you guys, if this means something to you guys. Hit yes. Now, if you don't want to take the time to write the word yes, at least go and hit the love button or the like button every time you hear something you like. Let our panelists know that they are fantastic, that their time that they're spending, that they're sacrificing for something else, they're spending it here with us is valuable. Just by hitting that like button, hit that love button. Give them some love. Let them know that we appreciate them. All right, let's get back to Joseph and ask that question. Joseph, uh, is that the right question? No, I put the wrong question up, didn't I? How has being a mentor impacted your own photography career as well as your own personal growth?
It's been a huge asset in so many ways, and I don't have enough time to put it all here. I like meeting new photographers everywhere. And as much as I travel, it's amazing that different cities have different thought processes and different ways of doing things, especially those who are eager to learn and grow. It's a chance for me to give back and share my experience. So what I learned in one city or one country, I come back here and I talk to the photographers. They go, I've never heard of that. So I'm also learning. And through that, as I grow older, I'm grateful for the journey that brought me here. My photography business thrives because I genuinely care about my clients and the photographers working with me. It's helped me understand the different mindsets that come with the creative space we call photography. I learn as much as I give back, and the friendships that come is invaluable to me. As I said earlier, it's helped my business grow. I know, keep repeating that, but I can't stress that enough. We're here to grow our business, and if we want to go that next level, you can't do it all by yourself. So while you're mentoring, you're also filling those coffers of strong people that you can count on, and we can count on each other. What I ask for, I give back as well. So those second shooters are so important to the success of any photography business. And mentoring, in a way, is a great tool to find that diamond in a rock. Really short, and some of you out there, and you may have heard of her, Natalia Sun. 9 years ago, she reached out to me, and she came to my studio, and she never did anything that I did. And I asked her, listen, if you really want to learn, you're going to have to dig down deep and ask yourself, I don't want somebody to waste my time. And she goes, no, I really want to. And I'm really slow. I believe in that mindset that the Japanese have. We develop relationships over years, not over days or weeks, because you want to find if that person really has that inside of them, not just because they're going through a moment where they're going to do something for 6 months and then they're going to find something else. I don't want to waste my time with that person. Natalia was that person who we baby stepped for 2 years, and she became my number one. Sadly, March of 2023, she passed away. And it's still a hole in my business, but I also have other photographers to cover me. So has it impacted my photography career and personal growth? Yeah, because I learned a lot. She was the calmness of everything. A lot of times, as much as I'm having multiple things going on, it it was always nice to have someone that I could call on. As I speak, I've got something going on in Orlando and one in Vegas with my staff. And knowing that they're doing it without me being there and me giving me calls helps me. And it's not because I put them there, but because I know they love what they do. So I just think differently. I'm looking for that person that I can have on my journey who wants to be a part of that, because I'm not going to be here forever, and I want that to be passed on, and they love that, and that's just my take on it.
You've had some difficulties that you've had to deal with. You shared with me another one. I'm not bringing it up directly, but the fact that you still have a positive outlook, and you're looking at it in the most possible way. I'm really impressed with that, Joseph.
Well, I really believe that God only gives us what we can handle, and I don't look down at the adversities. I look at it as an opportunity to find strength in it and keep moving on, because that's what you know. Well, you brought it up. My brother, he died of pancreatic cancer day after Christmas, and it still
Yeah.
resonates with me. And I didn't share it. It's really very personal, and the journey. I was on a photo assignment. I go to Miami a lot, and I saw him in 2 months before he said he was diagnosed in November of last year. In February, he was diagnosed, and then here he's gone. And I've seen him multiple times since then. But life, you don't know what life's ahead of you. So it's taught me to be even more humble. As we get older, we think about our mortality more, especially when we start losing people. So I want a legacy of giving back and not just making that almighty daughter. I'm past that. And so anyone who wants to work for me, great if you want to do it, but at least do it with passion. That's how I feel about it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. All right, let's move on to the next question, and that question is for you. So leaving you on, let's see. In this, I think we may have touched on this already, but what are some of the challenges you faced as a mentor, and how have you overcome them?
That's me again?
Yes.
Well, through my experience, I encountered multiple challenges that helped me. And those key factors when someone approaches me for guidance as a mentor to photographers, as I said, I evaluate their whole skill set before offering any advice. And I'll just say a couple, because I don't want to take the other great photographers' times. But the first thing I ask, can you shoot in manual mode? And if so, demonstrate that to me. You got a strong grasp of color. Can you change your color in your camera? I want photographers who know the manual side. I don't want photographers to shoot everything in program mode. Yes, there's moments you can do that, and that's okay. But when I'm shooting, I want to know you can do that. I've had photographers come up to me and say, hey, how do I set this? I think you can leave now. And I'm very bold about that. You say you're going to do something, you better be able to do it. Especially they're capable of taking high quality photos that require minimal processing in Adobe. I came from the days just like you did. You only had 36 shots on a roll of film, and you better make the best damn go of it, because you're not going to get a chance to edit and take out what you want. And so 90% of my photos are pretty much perfect in camera. And I might do some tweaking at the end, depending if it's an ad that I got to do or the client's graphic design does it for me. And I also ask them, are they willing to learn and improve their skills independently? Can they handle situations on a shoot with a client? Sudden schedule changes, demanding clients. If they're unfamiliar with such, moments, my offer advice on how to react and how to respond. Some photographers claim to be committed to learning and growth, but their actions not always what follows the words. Example, some photographers, I offer the chance to shadow me during the shoot at no cost. I think they've got a great opportunity, with the understanding that I will not want or use their photos in any way, and would only provide feedback. So I want to see what they're doing, and I'll send them out there. You say you're a wedding photographer? We're at a corporate conference. I need you to cover that speaker. I need you to go to a general session. What do I do? Don't tell me. You just do it. Either you know it or you don't know it. I might give very minimal. I just want to see one. And I said, and I want to see those photos as soon as you're done. And a lot of times they come back and they're horrible, and they say, well, they're in RAW and I'll get them later. I'll get them about a week. I go, we don't have that. One of my clients, and I'm really proud to say this, is Thomson Reuters out of London. We do 29 meetings a year for them. And I have 6 photographers that work for me. And those photographers know that every 15 minutes, they have to upload those photos and they need to be perfect because they go straight to London and they're going all over the wire. Those are the photographers I look for. And when some have, but a lot of them requested payment when I ask them, as you said earlier, I'm giving you on-site training and I'm supposed to pay you. You know, I'm happy to cover parking and lunch, but if you're going to get free learning from a professional and take it away, you're going to struggle to succeed. And I benefited from the same experience when I started. I would often go shoot for free. I had part-time jobs. I have guys who tell me, well, I've got a family. Well, then don't be a photographer because this is not your gig. Don't get into something that's going to cost you to have financial difficulties. Either you do or you don't. Some people know me, and I can tell you, I've met some people from San Antonio and other cities that we've gotten together, and they've seen me. I mean, I just really believe in what I do, and I'm at that age where maybe I'm not woke, but I'm not going to be soft on you. Either you have it or you don't have it. And the photographers I find, I latch onto them. And there's a couple of people in San Antonio that are really coming up and they're really doing well. And that's how I approach it. I hope that helps. It might be a little hard, but that's me.
It is a little hard from some people's point of view, but I want people to hear different points of view. And I've heard opinions that were much harder than that. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but if someone hasn't come across that before, yeah, they may think that was a little hard. But that's how, if you were taught pre-digital, you were taught get it right in camera. I mean, that it wasn't a suggestion or a rule. It was just how it was. You just did it. You got it right in camera. Yeah, that took effort. That took a lot of practice. It took patience. I mean, it took learning. It took trial and error. It took a lot of work to get it to the point where where you had things fine. But as portrait photographers, generally we do have more time to deal with stuff. We can go back and play with it all day long in Photoshop if we felt like it, if we needed to. And so I think maybe we give ourselves a little bit of leeway that other photographers don't have that type of they don't have that kind of leeway to be able to deal with. I didn't do a whole lot of commercial photography during my career, but I did a handful. And I remember one in particular. Every time I photographed an event for them, they had to have 100% of the images uploaded within 15 minutes
Yep.
of the event ending. So they didn't need it every 15 minutes like the one you were describing. Wow. But they needed it within 15 minutes of the event ending because they needed it. They wanted the images available on their social media channels so that their contributors, those who donated to this event could see their photographs the moment they got back to the office. That was the intent. It were always luncheons, or almost. There were sometimes dinners, but they were mostly luncheons. They always had to have them back immediately. There was no time for photoshopping every single image. There was no time to Photoshop a single image. As soon as, in fact, I had a standalone CD burner at the time, and when CDs were a thing, it was digital. But I would photograph the event immediately, and I wouldn't do RAW. I would do JPEGs because they can't do anything with a RAW. And so I'd immediately put that card into the CD burner, burn the CD, hand it to the event organizer, and I'd be done. That was it. There was no post-production time. It didn't exist. So how many of us can do that? Those who and those who you work with, they can do that. How many portrait photographers that are watching right now have the ability to do what Joseph described? I'm not telling you have to, not saying that even slightly. I'm just saying consider different points of view because I think that opens our mind to becoming stronger photographers, stronger people. What do you think, Joseph?
Oh, I think it'll be, I always tell photographers, even though you do other styles that allow you time, try learning how to do it in camera. I promise you, it'll pay dividends in moments that you don't realize. I shot 4x5, medium format. When I did architectural, I only had 2 sheets on a 4x5 plate, and I only had 10 shots, and it was in chrome. And you can't, you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying chrome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't be off at all.
And I pushed and pulled those when in processing. So I
Serious?
learned that. I learned that. You know, that's old school stuff. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
today, when you learn that, I have photographers who know me and they see me shooting. He goes, when you shoot and I watch you, it's like you're playing an instrument. You don't even think. You just automatically start changing your shutter speed, your color balance. I walk into a room, I know what it is. And clients go, well, how did you get it perfect? It's from experience. Or another photographer says, well, I'll change it later. No, change it now, you know, and it's just hard. And again, you know, I think everyone, I know in portraits and in family, you don't necessarily have to do that because outside's gorgeous. You can leave it on program. It'll be fine, you know, but if you're in a space where you've got different colors coming from everywhere, you need to understand that. So, but that's helped me also take that to the next level when I'm shooting. So I'm just a little bit more detailed.
Thank you for sharing that, Joseph.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna let, let's see, Daniel answer that same question. So, Daniel, what's your opinion? What are some of the challenges that you faced as a mentor, and how have you overcome them?
There's a few challenges. I've already kind of addressed it with that grasp on reality situation, trying to see how realistic they see the photography career as being for them. And do they think they can learn it in a month and be making $4,000 a month, or do they know that, hey, this might take a year or two, and I've got to learn this and that. I'll need to upgrade my stuff eventually. So that's one of the challenges. But another challenge is trying to not discourage and be too negative. Giving them a dose of reality, telling them what's up, but at the same time, you don't want to smash their dreams, and you want to make sure that they still have hope. Don't step all over their hope because you have all these terrible stories of how hard it was to get to where you are. They may have a different journey. It
Yeah.
might be a lot easier, smoother for them. You just never know. So try not to step on their hopes and dreams, but still balance that. You gotta balance it with reality. Another thing is just scheduling. Honestly, sometimes people are not available for my shoots because this is not yet their full-time thing, and so they've got day jobs and families and whatnot. So one challenge is just scheduling. So I have a list of people that I'm mentoring and people that are interested in being at shoots, helping, being hands-on and learning that way. So I've got that go-to list, and if one's available, hey, that's understandable. I get it. I go on to the next one. And sometimes that does weed people out. They're just too unavailable, and they kind of make their way off my list. But yeah, and also their commitment, their devotion to learning. I know I'm not the only way to learn. Now, there's plenty of other avenues they could learn through, but seeing how committed they are to learning through me, if how much they want it, that'll determine how often I'm going to use them. Yeah,
Makes sense. A lot of variables, a lot of things to consider, and being the right tool is a big one.
yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I'm going to ask that same question now of Debbie. So let's bring on Debbie. So, Debbie, what are your thoughts? What are some of the challenges that you faced as a mentor, and how have you overcome them?
I feel like my answer could be really short and I could just say ditto, because that's definitely both of those answers they're the same things that I kind of face and challenge. Scheduling is a huge thing. Um, and just I think the other thing is knowing when is a time to like cut the cord and say this is not a mentoring relationship that's beneficial for you or for me. It's becoming more of a toxic, or even depleting relationship instead of one that's uplifting for both people. And I think that that's just kind of a challenge sometime. And a lot of times I do start with people who are interested in learning, getting to know them, and just to see kind of how their drive is and how committed they're going to be. And, also how they're going to receive criticism, even if it is as kind and as, delicate as possible. But sometimes you do just kind of have to say, hey, like, I don't know if this lane is your lane. And I think how they receive that is can be a challenge sometimes on how to navigate that and how to make sure that that relationship is still healthy and being cultivated well. But just knowing when, hey, I don't think I'm the mentor for you, and maybe there's somebody else who's going to be able to teach you better, or there's going to be a different um, learning style. I think also I have a challenge every now and then where sometimes guys just they have a hard time listening to me because I'm a woman and I'm not that's typically not my personality, but it is sometimes I'll approach I'll have, guys that I mentor and they kind of come with this like know it all, like I got all the cool gear and what are you going to teach me? And I'm just like, you could have an old camera. It doesn't matter if it's new or old, it's how you use it. And it's kind of like this, like, I can't learn from you because you really don't know what you're talking about. So I do face that sometimes, very, very, very rare. But is still a challenge sometimes, just, the dynamics that you have and knowing when that relationship is not beneficial for both people.
That's an interesting one, and that's true. It's a matter of the tools. There's a lot of good tools, but not all of them are the right tools, and you don't necessarily know that right off the bat.
No,
Um, but if we know what the goal is, we can normally find out pretty quickly what the
right.
right tools are, and so that's when you realize either you are or you're not the right tool for the job. And same thing with all of us when it comes to referrals. There's times when we know that uh, you know Joe down the street is a better photographer at this type of thing, and while we
Mhm.
have the ability to press the button in front of that thing just as well as the next photographer, if we are honest when we say we give our clients the best,
Yeah,
then that means there are times, and not always, but there are times when you do need to refer that business to someone else. It's not just
100%.
about collecting the dollars.
Yeah.
It's about giving the client the best possible service that you can give, and sometimes that is giving them the name of someone else.
Hmm.
Of course, there's times when you give them the name of someone else because you don't wanna work with them, so there's multiple variables there as well.
Yeah. But I think that reflects well on your business as well. If you're willing to refer a client and they have a great experience with someone you know and trust, maybe somebody you mentored that went into a different lane of photography.
Yes,
If you
exactly.
refer them and they have a great experience with that photographer, maybe they come to you and they're like, "Hey, my you know daughter is getting married. You're a wedding photographer. You referred them, and I had a great experience with them." So you're building trust in that process at the same time.
Yeah, yep, I agree with that. I've got another question, and it's for you,
Okay.
so I'm keeping you on.
Okay.
Let me put it up on the screen. By the way, if this guy if for you guys watching, if this is helping, do me a favor real quick. Go over to the comment section and just write, "It's helping." That's it, or "Help." No, no, don't write "help." Helping, right? "It's helping." Don't write "help." I'll see that and I'll think it means something else. It's helping in the comments right now. Let me know that this is helping you guys. Also, if you have some examples that you can share, maybe times that you have been a mentor, you have helped someone else, or someone has helped you, please share that in the comments. Let us know your experiences as well. All right, Debbie, here is the next question. Have you come across photographers who feel that professionals are reluctant to share their knowledge? I know you know the answer to this question. What advice would you offer them to find supportive mentors? Because, yeah, some people do find this challenging.
Yeah, I definitely have. Like I said, I'm kind of from a small town, and I've met a lot of photographers again that are from small towns, and they have that same. They do find professionals to be reluctant in sharing their knowledge or almost gatekeeping information, and it is kind of hard. And again, I feel so blessed to be a part of the San Antonio community, even though I'm just kind of New Braunfels. I'm in there all the time. I feel like I should just live there, but I'm so grateful to be in that community because it's not anything that I had experienced before. And so I'm grateful for that. And so I would say for people who maybe are in a small town or they feel like professionals are kind of like reluctant to share information, but they're looking for that. If you can find someone who offers mentoring, like maybe in a digital sense, that's a great asset as well. Or someone who mentors and does travel, like travels as well. You never know, they may be in your city for shoots or for weddings, and that's a great relationship to have as well. The other option is to find a bigger city and try and get into that community, because it seems like the bigger the city, the more camaraderie and community that there is. I think that also that it's changing a lot. I think that the dynamics between photographers is really moving more towards this community over competition type uh, mindset. I think that there's some dangerous boundaries there, but I definitely think that that is happening in the community. And so I think that there are going to be more photographers who are going to be more and more open. And honestly, like the older I get, the more I realize like I'm not going to be able to work 10 or 12-hour days carrying gear around and working a wedding. And so what better way to continue in the career and teach other people. So I think that as people get older too, they might be more open to mentoring. So finding maybe an older, more seasoned photographer who's been in the business for a while, or finding someone who would mentor you online.
Those are some good suggestions. Yeah, thank you for sharing those.
You're welcome.
Very good. I'm going to now ask that same question of Joseph.
Usually when I
All right, Joseph.
Yes. When I initially started my career, I received some advice from photographers here in San Antonio. Some kind of believed in me. They thought I had an opportunity. And I had those hard moments where they would tell me, "We like you, but you kind of suck." And but keep pushing. And that didn't stop me. It just made me stronger. And then when I say suck, I'm talking about my photography skills. So I kept learning and I'm learning and I got really good. And then over time, I felt I don't know what word I can use, but they weren't giving me too much guidance anymore. I was getting jobs and it was whether it was their clients or no clients, because back in San Antonio, we didn't have a whole lot going on. And there was only so much around on the commercial side, but I kept pushing through but to this day, I stay in touch with a few and, we're still friends. But it really surprised me to make me want to learn more. And I did it on my own by getting educated with Santa Fe workshops. And it really made a difference. And, I would say, what advice would I offer to find supportive mentors? Find photographers that do what you do, that you like. Start off by a conversation. Even if you don't know them, call them and be aware that even today there's that mindset of that's my competition. So you have to also be careful about that. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, hey, we have Facebook. So you can go on Facebook and get in other cities' photography networks. I belong to a lot of them. That's how I find great photographers as well. And you can ask those questions and they'll be more than open to answering questions. And eventually, if you find a right fit, you might be amazed to see that you're going to get someone who's willing to mentor you. And have an open mind and realize that what you perceive as the right way is just another way. And their way could also elevate you to where you weren't before. And I think that's my take on it. And it's really worked for me.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that, Joseph. A lot of the things you said are very different than what the average Joe portrait photographer is thinking about, and so it's fantastic to hear this different point of view. At least I feel it is, because there's definitely a lot of overlap between what you do and what a portrait photographer does, but there's also a lot of differences between these, and so therefore, of course, you're going to see it differently, and so I think it's beneficial for us to hear those kinds of things. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right, let's bring on Daniel to answer the same question. All right, Daniel.
Hey.
Tell me about your your experiences with photographers who are finding it a challenge to find someone who's going to help them out, and what advice could you offer them to find a supportive mentor?
I haven't personally encountered too much pushback or others who have experienced that pushback of not being able to find photographers that are open about what they do. So,
Good.
that's just because of my bubble who I've encountered. I'm sure there's plenty of that. I just haven't encountered. I'm always the last one to find out about the drama and, hit the sour grapes. I've been pretty somehow sheltered from all that. But the second part of the question, I have a little bit more to offer on that. So how do you find supportive mentors? There's a few things to take consideration when you're looking for someone who's really going to influence you. First of all, you have to realize that photographers, we are not created equal. We do things so differently. It's crazy. Just learning about others. Well, when I teach workflows for editing and image processing and product delivery, every other photographer does this so differently. It's crazy. And I can't shoot them down because if they have a system that works, then it works. So all that to say, we're also different, that who you choose to influence you is going to be really important. So you need to be aware of that and be careful. So find someone that you like their style, not just their visual style, their images, but their style of how they do business. You need to be able to really harmonize and synchronize with them before you let them brainwash you for a good. It's kind of a negative term, of course, but we do need to get our brains washed sometimes. We come in with all these presuppositions and assumptions and things, and we need to have someone to wash our brain, but just be careful who you let influence you. But another thing is that you need to make sure that you like their personality and that they're actually a good teacher. We've talked a lot about this, Jim, is that photography is one thing, being a business person is another thing. But now there's another third dynamic. Are you also a teacher? Maybe not. Some people just are not gifted with the ability to communicate in a way that someone else's brain who's ignorant can understand what they have to give. And so communication and teaching is a skill set. So whoever you're letting mentor, they may or may not be skilled in the teaching arts, if you will. And that might hinder, the information getting into your skull, as if they're just not really creative or able to deliver that in a good way. So yeah, I'll to sum that up, you need to find someone who you like their photos, you like their business etiquette and how they do things, and then that you feel that they have a good way of communicating and educating you, so that you can actually digest what they have to offer you.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's true. That's very true. Well, Daniel, I want to give you the first word on closing thoughts. I'm going to allow each one of you to share your closing thoughts, but I'm going to allow you to go first to just close it up. Tell me any last minute thoughts you want to share with the group.
Sure. Well, if you're wanting to be mentored, then you're in a place where you are honest about your lack of knowledge, which is good. You got to first admit you have a problem, right? And then you find solutions for that. And there's a lot of solutions. Mentoring is one of them. It's a great way to get a personal touch for that learning experience, and it's getting you started in the right direction of whatever area you are, struggling with. But I'd also tell people out there to take in the other avenues as well. One of them is asking for constructive criticism on active and healthy Facebook groups for photography. And you gotta have some thick skin, because occasionally there's a jerk out there that just doesn't quite know how to communicate constructive criticism, and kind of destructive criticism is what they have to offer. There's always a few of those out there in the big groups. So, but ask for CC, as we call it, constructive criticism. Ask for CC and be willing to be wrong. Be willing to understand what other different people's opinions are on things. And also don't rely on your gear. If you're new, the fear that I have is that people get GAS, gear acquisition syndrome, and that it's all about getting the new toy, the latest version of that toy, and the accessory for the toy, and that's going to make your photos better. By golly, well, it's not. It's how you use it, and you need to know why you're getting that tool. I'm actually planning a shoot where I managed to find a Rebel XSI in 2008, the first camera I ever had, a DSLR. That was one of the first Rebels that ever came out, the digital Rebels. And yeah, I have one and it works. And I'm going to do a shoot with it. I'm going to show you I can make epic photos with a 16-year-old camera. I'm going to do it because it's not about the gear. It's about the user behind it and the experience you have. So all that to say, find different avenues to learn to complement your mentorship that you may have. and be aware that whoever you pick to influence you, they could influence you for better or for worse. I have heard of people having not so great mentors, and they kind of instilled in some unhealthy mentalities of certain things. Then later they had to work those out of them and get past those issues. So yeah, choose wisely and get help. Because we all need it.
Don't we? That's true. Daniel, thank you so much for doing what you do to uplift the photography community.
Thank
And
you.
I personally appreciate that. That's what I do, and so when I see other people who are doing it, I very much appreciate it. I mean,
Mhm.
I know you maybe come across people who, if you're doing the same thing that they're doing, they get upset, and maybe that's a smaller
Yeah.
town thing. I see it as a valuable thing when other people do something similar. Maybe it's never the same; it's always something different.
Mhm.
But there's a bit of overlap. I can't, no matter how much I would love to affect everyone and help everyone make an incredible living in photography. I know that I can't. I can't touch everyone. For one, not everyone's going to connect with me from the start, so therefore they won't even give me a shot. And those that do may not have time. You mentioned that earlier, that everything would have worked out perfectly if there was enough time to
Yeah.
make it happen, and there just wasn't. And so I value people like you and the other panelists, of course, who are giving their time, who find value in uplifting other photographers. So thank you, and I know I don't have to ask you to continue. That's just part of your personality. You're going to keep on keeping on being a good member of the photographer community. And I want you to know, if I may not say it often, but I appreciate you and what you're doing. I
Thank
think
you
it's
very much.
fantastic.
Appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you, Daniel. All right. I'm going to give, let's see, I'm going to give Debbie the next, uh, let her give us her closing thoughts. Debbie, tell
Hey.
us your closing thoughts for tonight's topic on mentoring and whatever else you find important.
Yeah, I think Daniel said it really well. That, I mean, if you're here and you're looking for a mentor, then you're definitely in a place where you're acknowledging, hey, like I need help. And I think that even when you're getting ready to ask for help, I think that you need to, it's a two-way street. A mentor is going to look for someone who's really ready and willing to learn. And sometimes we have to be receptive to harsh criticism. And sometimes we think that we're ready for that and we're really not. So I think that if you are in a place where you're looking for a mentor, and you find someone that you like their photos, you like their style, you like their personality, and you guys have a great uh, chemistry, and you think that you can learn really well from them, you also have to realize that there's going to be moments that, like you're good friends and you're mentoring and you're growing together and you're doing, fun and you're creating art. But then there may be moments that, as a mentor, some of my mentees that I talk to, I sometimes have to tell them, like, look, I think that you've got potential here, and I maybe this isn't your lane, maybe this is your lane. And I think that sometimes they have to be receptive of that. So if you're looking to get into a mentorship, then find someone that you can receive from, that you can take criticism from, that you can take guidance from, whether it's blunt and tough love or maybe it's more gentle. Again, that's why building a relationship and finding out the dynamics and the chemistry between you and your mentor is so important, because we all learn differently, just like we all teach differently. And there's going to be a person who's going to be able to mentor someone, maybe who needs a gentler approach, or someone who needs that tough love there. So yeah, that's what I would say is just, if you're looking to don't be afraid to ask. That's the other thing. Just find somebody and don't be afraid to ask for help. Because I think that that's another thing, is a lot of times people are just too scared to ask, and there's people who are willing to help. Just got to ask.
I agree with all that. And Debbie, I appreciate everything that you've been sharing with us. This is you've brought up some points that I hadn't even thought of, and I didn't know. I didn't know you before this. The only really connection we have is Facebook, and the times that I've reached out to you to talk to you about what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And so I've learned some things about you that I find very interesting, and want to keep in contact with you about,
Yeah, for sure.
because I find it very interesting. I find it valuable to the photographer community, and I'm glad that your heart is open to be able to uplift other photographers. So thank you for what you do. I appreciate
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to give Joseph the let's see, the last opportunity to do closing thoughts. All right, Joseph, you're up. Closing thoughts for this evening.
Well, I want to thank you, Jim, for having me as a panelist first. I appreciate that. I had a great time sharing my insights. If anyone's interested in finding a mentor, my advice has always been speak to your peers, ask them about recommendations, and find that good fit that you're going to have with that person. I think the most important and paramount, do you guys get along? And are they willing to take you under their wing? And if they are, be open-minded. Have the opportunity to let yourself get out of your comfort zone. And again, be honest with them and yourself. Is this what I really want to do? Don't waste their time. If you really want to be a great portrait photographer, you want to be a corporate photographer, find that space and really work at it. I always say, if you don't get a mentor, at least try to work with several photographers in that space that you're in, or maybe a couple of different spaces. I'll tell you why, because it's a wealth of knowledge you're going to learn and soak in that took us years to put together. What one guy has, the other person didn't learn, or she didn't know, and it goes back and forth. You can take away what works for you when you listen to them, and don't try to be the person who thinks they know what they're doing all the time. I mean, it's good to give advice because I'm always open to learning. That's just the way I am. But observe and how they interact with their clients. I mean, I've worked with photographers that are incredible, better than I could ever be, but they're the worst people person. And yet they still haven't managed to get some jobs, and for a moment, they have no jobs. And you'll see the big difference among the photographers you shadow. Some will be incredible with work, and others, well, not so much. But the other thing I always say is it's also a great way to try their equipment. You might be amazed some of their equipment is not what you thought. If you're a Canon person, but you're never tried a Sony, you might be using their equipment for a little bit as a backup. And also, knowing that what equipment the photographers use will possibly help your images stand out. So now you're not taking any business away from them. You're just adding to what you didn't know, So that's my take. And thanks again for letting me be a part of this event. And it was great listening to Debbie and Daniel. I heard perspectives that I didn't realize was in your industry. And but at the same time, I think we've got a common denominator. We just want good people who are willing to be open and get out of their comfort zone and try to find that gem of a photographer. So, and I'm always open to learning.
Love it. Joseph, I really appreciate you bringing a perspective that the majority of us really aren't thinking about because we've never had a reason to, as far as portrait photographers. Now, there are a lot of portrait photographers that do more than just portrait photography. You heard Daniel say that he likes to do all different types. I specialize in family portraits as home decor, so therefore I really only photograph families. So I'm extremely focused in what I do. Well, did, since I'm not really doing that as much anymore. But I was very focused, and others like to expand, and they have their reasons for doing that. There's pros and cons for no matter what what choices you make, and so I definitely like hearing lots of different points of view, especially ones that are not and having the opportunity to hear some that aren't portrait photography at all. And so bringing your wealth of knowledge, the amount of time that you have invested into photography, the time you've spent with other photographers, the time you spent with education, the time that you've spent with clients, all this bringing these experiences and sharing those with us tonight has been very valuable. And I want to make sure you know that I really appreciate it. I think our viewers are appreciating it. So thank you for all that you've done, whatever sacrifices you've made to be here this evening. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Joseph.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, let's bring on the other two and make sure that we say one last thank you and goodbye to these wonderful guys. Our panelists have generously shared their extensive expertise and experiences with us. And we hope that you guys have gained some valuable insight and useful tips. Excuse me. Take a moment to say thank you in the comments. Show your appreciation for their gift of time and attention by clicking the like button or the love button one more time. It is wonderful people like Debbie, Joseph, and Daniel who uplift this wonderful photographer community. And we want to encourage them to continue to do so with our comments, with our likes, our loves, our appreciation. Thank you, guys.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
There.
Bye.
Bye.
Those are some wonderful panelists. Aren't they always? You know, as we bring this episode to a close, I want to once again extend a heartfelt thank you to our esteemed panelists. Their journeys have not only illuminated new pathways for our success, but also exemplify the profound impact of embracing traditional aspects of our craft. Their stories, their challenges, their triumphs, they all serve as an inspiration to photographers at every stage of their careers. Photographers, let these stories be a reminder that our profession is more than just capturing moments. It's about creating lasting legacies. Remember, each one of us has the power to elevate the art of photography, to enrich the lives of our clients, and to contribute to a community that's as dynamic and as beautiful as the images we create. Thank you once again to our panelists for their invaluable contributions and for helping make the photography community truly a fantastic place. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the time and attention here today. And thank you for the efforts that you make to be such an amazing portrait photographer. The Portrait Prophet Show is here every single Monday for you, for all to grow. Tune into the next live stream a week from today, and together we help each other achieve our goals and make a difference in the world through our passion for portrait photography. Let me tell you what that next episode is going to be about. I'll put that up on the screen real quick. That one is called How IPS Evolved. And I'm going to put that on a screen in a different way. There we go. How IPS evolved. Now, I assume you guys know what IPS is, but if you don't, it stands for in-person sales. It's the old way of doing portrait sales. However, if you started off in the digital world, you might not have known that that was the way that it was done, because you might have been doing shoot and burn or post and pray, and then you learned the old way. But it wouldn't have been the old way to you, it would have been the new way. And so it came with a new name, even though it was the old way, and it was called IPS. It is called IPS. I don't often call it that, but that's what everybody calls it. So therefore, why rock the boat? IPS. But I want to talk about how it evolved, because how it evolved is going to help you make it even better for the tool that it is. Put it on your calendar. It's next week, a week from today. And I'll put that on the calendar, put that up on the screen too. Let's see, upcoming shows, January 15th at noon, How IPS Evolved. Put it on your calendar. Remember, it's at noon. The only time we move it to the 6:30 to 8 o'clock time frame, which we've gone over a little bit, is when we have a panel discussion. And that's to make it easier for the panelists to get here. Not that it's easy. They still have to sacrifice something, but it's easier than getting 3 of them to do it at noon on a Monday. All our episodes, other than the panel, is on noon on Monday. So June 15th at noon, How IPS Evolved. Now, the one after that, 1 week from that one, January 22nd, is Copyright Insights. This is prevention in action. This is not about copyright law and how it's perceived or what the rules are. This is if your copyright is infringed. By the way, I had this discussion with someone earlier today via Facebook Messenger, We had a difference of opinion, but any good subject, there's a difference of opinion. But this was pretty straightforward. But that topic that he and I talked about was not what this show is going to be about. I might bring that topic back up though, because it's an important one. But this is copyright insights, specifically prevention, so that you're less likely to have your work infringed on. But what happens if you do? And so I'm actually going to give you a template. If you're watching that show, I'll give you the opportunity to download the template that I have, and it's for free. I'm not going to charge you anything for it. I'll give you an opportunity to download that template so that you can take action if you do have your copyright infringed on. So that is on January 22nd. Put that on your calendar. Ah, man. We've come to the end of the show. Show number 140. Hey, that wasn't right. But I can make it right real quickly. Now it's right. Show number 149. Panel discussion. And well, that part's not right either. So how about this? Being a mentor. Thanks again to our panelists who gave their time. Thank you for you guys for watching. I appreciate you. For Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, my name is Jim Landers, and I'm bringing you the weekly Portrait Profit Show with evolving content, awareness, and even fun as we unpack the mysteries of the business side of photography with tips and insights to help you with the struggles you deal with now, so you are constantly realigned to the path that leads you to your success. Thank you for investing your time here at the weekly Portrait Profit Show. I look forward to watching you grow. Bye for now.